Soldiers, sailors, airmen and women enlist in the armed forces for many reasons, including a sense of duty, patriotism, the adventure, travel, and adrenaline. When service members are injured or wounded and can no longer perform their military duties, they quickly find themselves removed from their team, no longer serving the purpose for which they trained.
I came back from Afghanistan in 2013, and it was kind of a trial and error of finding out, after the military, what's next in life.
Motorsports offers an opportunity to regain that sense of identity within a safe, fast-paced team environment, providing a renewed sense of purpose. Like in the military, in motorsports, the goal is in accomplishing the mission, winning as a team, collectively celebrating the successes and supporting teammates through the losses. Operation Motorsport also offers virtual engagements and recovery opportunities through an iRacing league, engaging beneficiaries in a safe, competitive environment from the comfort and safety of their home. Operation Motorsport believes in the power of team, identity, and purpose.
Hello, this is Jason with Operation Motorsport. We'd like to introduce you to some of our beneficiaries who were active during the GT World Challenge SRO race at New Orleans Motorsport Park this past weekend.
This weekend I've been working with Steve over on GT4 and with Charlie over on the TC cars, doing the tech inspections for them, checking the ride height, weight, camber, and also the tire pressure and things like that. When they come back from the races, then the top 3 or top 5, depending on the class, have to come through and get everything checked all over again to make sure that they ran the race within the regulations. Sometimes we have to pull some parts and measure those. It all depends on what comes down from the technical director. Operation Motorsport has actually done a lot for me in a really short period of time. It's pretty amazing to feel part of a team again and have some kind of a purpose. It's really, really amazing. And the value for me, at least, it goes way beyond just oh, it's very cool that I'm learning how to do ride height on cars. Yeah. That is absolutely not the main value for me.
Yeah.
You feel like you got some worth, man.
Yeah,
worth something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. In here, I feel like I can contribute. I mean, it's not a big contribution, but it doesn't matter. Even in the military, somebody's got to get the food ready.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I can help here. I can do stuff. I can learn stuff.
Yeah.
People are patient. Nobody acts like I'm stupid if I ask a silly question.
Yeah.
I'm learning, you know? And it feels really nice to be somewhere where I can learn something that I'm actually interested in and feel a part of a team and there's people I can count on, things like that.
Well, I think
so. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's done a lot for me.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the 5th round of the 5th season of Operation eMotorsport iRacing League. I am your host, Rachel Whiteford, joined by my colleague in the booth tonight, Joe Beek, and our producer this evening, Joshua Lee. Josh is using cameras created by the great Dougie Beard. Well, welcome back to the Operation eMotorsport series, and we have a good show for you tonight. It's going to be awesome. Sebring is a personal favourite track. I know, Joe, you quite like this place too. Definitely has a lot of great racing memories.
It tends to put on a really good show. It's got a lot of challenging different types of corners. Not a lot of elevation change since it was on an old air base. So it's really more about two things in this track. Like I said, the variety of corners that you've got and the bumps. The bumps are the thing that really set it apart, that most are going to be talking about and worrying about over the course of the lap, particularly as you see on this map here in that last sector before the start-finish line. Essentially, it's all original tarmac of when this place was built, which was back, I believe, in the 40s, before it was a racetrack and it was just an airfield. So you can imagine the sort of state it's in because of that, and often really tests to see who's got the best handling.
It really does. Well, don't forget, tonight we have 3 different classes in the race. We'll go over those a bit sooner in more detail. Those are, of course, your beneficiaries. They're the GT4 cars, open to beneficiaries of Operation Motorsports series. We have the open class GT4 cars as well. They are active service members and supporters of Operation Motorsport. And we have the pros. They are in the GT3 cars. They hold competition licenses, both past and present, and iRacers with a road rating above 1900. Well, whilst we get towards the end here of qualifying, we're going to have a great chance to chat to Chris Ramirez. Chris is, of course, a military veteran himself, but also one of the organizers here with Operation Motorsport. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us here. And I'd really like to find out how you originally got involved with Operation Motorsport.
Sure. So, I don't know. My wife is really big into doing nonprofit work and stuff, and she kept kind of recommending that I look for some veterans organizations, and so I did. And what I was really looking for was, I was hoping to find at least, was an organization that put veterans in motorsports together. And so when as I was looking through, I kind of stumbled across Operation Motorsport. And I was really interested in what they did. And then, so I signed up, and I met with Jason, and now I'm here.
It's quite a fantastic story, of course, but what is it you do here at Operation Motorsport, can I ask?
Yeah, sure. So I actually started out as a beneficiary, and I started off here with the Sim Racing League, and so what I ended up doing was a season later, I was helping out Jason with some of the Discord stuff, and then Jason got superpowers and got moved up to being the COO, and he needed somebody to kind of take over the league, and he decided that for some reason he trusted me enough to let me kind of take over and run the eMotorsports program for him, and so now here I am running the eMotorsports program.
Fantastic. Is there anything exciting in the future for either Operation eMotorsport or Operation Motorsport that you can tell us about?
Yeah, so what I'm really looking forward to is I'm working with Mad Sim Racing and a couple of others to kind of put together a virtual race of remembrance to kind of mirror what's happening in real life. So I know Jason's talked at length about it. So the race of remembrance, we're taking a team over, and Skip Barber donated some really awesome Honda Civic Type R's that some of the beneficiaries are going to be racing and stuff, and so we're really excited about that. And so we're going to try to do a virtual race as well, and try to make it into a fundraiser to help raise some more funds for the organization, and see what kind of good, cool stuff we can make happen with that.
That sounds absolutely fantastic, especially for those who can't make the long journey, of course, to Anglesey for the Race of Remembrance itself. If you don't mind, Chris, tell us a little bit about your military service.
Yeah, so I enlisted in the Marines in 2008. I think I was actually really old compared to some of the other recruits. I was like 24, 25, not 18. And so I joined as an infantryman in the Marine Corps. I deployed in 2011 I was in Helmand Province from February of 2011 to like September of 2011. It was, it was hot. And then I think sometime...
Yeah, sensitive words for Helmand, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty cool. Like, I got to spend a lot of time with a British unit out there. So they were a Royal Airfield Squadron, and that was a lot of fun. We argued a lot. It was great.
Wait, you spent time with the Royal Air Force Regiment?
Yeah. So we had a patrol base just south of Camp Leatherneck.
Did they tell you their nickname?
No.
Everybody else in the British Armed Forces refers to them as the Rock Apes.
Oh God, I wish I had known that back then.
They think they're special. They think they're like the Air Force's special forces because they're on the ground with mud and a rifle. So it's adorable. But no, they're great guys. They absolutely are great guys. But obviously, was it just the one tour you served?
Yeah, it was just the one. We came back, and I think that was totally unrelated to my any kind of combat action or anything. I ended up getting hurt, so I herniated 2 discs in my back, and I think in my entire time in the service I tore my rotator cuff, the same one 4 different times. And so towards the end there, it wasn't healing, and that's kind of how I got processed out of the military.
Yeah, I can sympathize with that one. Ouch. No, I've had my own back issues, but still insane, especially during that period of time. Helmand was definitely on the warmer end of the scale, but obviously your work with Operation Motorsport, both being a beneficiary and just briefly, before we kind of wrap up here for qualifying, before you became officially involved as an actual organizer and helping to actually run this series, just what did it mean to you as a veteran that this organization existed?
So for me, I didn't really understand the mission until I started participating in the league, and getting to know Jason and some of the higher ups and kind of some of the other beneficiaries that have been working with the organization. And so seeing the way that they kind of took everybody and they put them back into this team environment, especially after getting discharged, right? Because I had, I went through that process, and it was pretty difficult, and it was kind of rough, especially just kind of, after you assume that persona, you have that mentality, or you have this image or this self-image of what you are, and this self-worth that's based on your entire military experience, and then you get kind of ripped out of that. It was really nice to see them putting people back in a team workspace like that. And I never really looked at any kind of comparisons with motorsport and the military, like the way that Diesel and the team have, and seeing how they were able to kind of map those two together and get people involved and kind of help them find a good place and help them get their lives back, really meant a lot. Because I'm sure everybody else that has served, we all have friends that we all know somebody that unfortunately took their own lives or something, and this is something that helps a lot of, there's a potential to help a lot of people not get to that point. And so it's a pretty big thing. It means quite a bit to see how much everybody's willing to help, and it's pretty awesome to just kind of turn around and provide the same to everyone else also.
I absolutely agree with you. It is two very distinctively different worlds, and being part of one makes the other one feel incredibly alien. Well, Chris Ramirez, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to let you get back to the organizational side of things with the race start coming up. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thanks, Rachel, and I'm glad you didn't pick on me too much this time.
Look, I could have made so many crayon comments, but I thought I'd be diplomatic.
I made sure not to eat any before the meeting, so y'all could understand what I said.
Yeah, that's important. I'm glad. I'll use shorter words next time. But thank you for joining us, Chris.
Yes, that would be appreciated.
Chris Ramirez from Operation Motorsport. Fantastic guy. Does so much of the organization behind the scenes here. But Joe, tonight's going to be exciting. I don't think I've seen a boring race at Sebring. And with the mixture of classes, this is always going to be a really, really difficult one, with the speed difference especially.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we're looking at 10 seconds difference between the fastest, even more than that almost, it looks like, between the fastest and the GT3s and our two GT4 classes that we have out there. So you're going to see, even in 30 minutes, that they're going to come across each other relatively quickly. It is a long lap, and that will help them space out quite a bit. But considering the added downforce that you have on these GT3 cars, the twistier bits are going to be pretty frustrating. Especially watch out through places such as Collier, out of Cunningham all the way into Tower. It gets a lot more narrow into there. It's very twisty, so it's hard to avoid those slower cars. You're probably going to lose time if you get caught up behind them there.
Absolutely are, of course, and the narrowness will definitely be a factor in that. And this was actually, like Joe mentioned earlier on, it was a B-17 training base during the Second World War. So appropriate, really, that Operation Motorsport will come here, somewhere that has seen so many service members over the years it was an active base, preparing people for one of the hardest jobs in history. But that aside, we've got a good field up tonight with the pros there. We've got some of the fast guys. Guillemet's out-qualified Smotherman so far from what we've seen here. Gonzalez still on the lap at the moment. And we have Elliott, Meismer, Poppenhaus towards the front of our GT field there with, looks like Meismer out-qualifying Poppenhaus for once.
Yep, and looks like they've actually just finished up. So I think we're getting ready to go.
We are absolutely getting ready to go. Let's do that grid thing that we always do. Let you guys know who's starting where. Starting off from the top of the pro class, we have Tyler Guillemet on the pole with a time of 1:58.972. Behind him, it's Matt Smotherman with Rodney Campbell, Mario Gonzalez, Jake Steinbrink with Martin Wallace in 6th, Joe Stifel, Jake McSparron. We've got Scott Andrews, 10th place, Dustin Burkhalter, with Dan Frederick behind him. Then it is Jesse Elliott for the open class with Dan Frederick. Oh, different classes, sorry, I got those two mixed up. Those are your open class 1 and 2, with 1 and 2 for the beneficiaries, Greg Meismer and Adam Poppenhaus. Then it's 3rd place, Brian Winker for the 15 for the open. We have the USO guest car, which I believe is going to be specialist first class Adam Benaway. We also have Brock Hogan there for the beneficiaries, Tyler Reed, Charles Bichelle, and Rick Haslett from open. Behind them, we have John Winker from the beneficiaries, Val Asiano. I mispronounced that again, I'm so sorry. I will go check my notes there. For the open, Brian Knight, Papa Knight there from the beneficiary class, Jake Porter, Josh Snyder from the beneficiaries, along with Elliot Whitfield, David Holly for the open class, and 2 non-qualifiers for pro. That will be Taylor Parsons and Ed Nelson.
So really cool stuff I'm looking forward to here, Rachel. And you talked about the fact that it was a bomber base originally. The other thing that's interesting about this place is I don't think a lot of people realize that it actually still was active as an airport until I believe the early 90s. And they finally cordoned it off as a fully strictly race course at that point. So it still saw airplanes for quite a long time.
Well, a lot of those old bases from the Second World War did in fact do that. In fact, Florida had so many. Disney Airstrip actually used to be a military training base as well, and there are dozens around Florida, hundreds even, training naval aircraft, training the Army Air Corps, of course, in the Second World War time period. But we digress. Also, just for a correction of myself here, it is Val Asensio. I do apologize for the mispronunciation. I had to go check my notes on the pronunciation of that one. I have made that mistake before, so I will correct myself here. But we are getting ready to go live on the racetrack as things come down to our pace lap here. What are your predictions right now, Joe?
Well, I'm thinking a big part of this is probably going to be surviving that first corner, because it's still on that bumpy surface coming through there, and it's a very fast first corner. A lot of times you'll see front straightaways lead into great passing zones, and it does offer good spots to pass into there. But because you don't use a lot of the brakes, especially at the start of the race into that corner, you can often see things go awry, and particularly because it narrows down on the exit. So people are going in 3 wide, 4 wide sometimes, and then suddenly realize, we don't have 4 wide space of racetrack on the exit. So it can cause people to trip each other up frequently.
Yeah, it really can. So we'll have to hope they'll be very careful around those portions, especially that first 1, 2, 3, 4 corner segment of the racetrack can always be a tricky one for us. But these guys are nothing if not incredibly polite on the racetrack.
Yeah, these folks know how to race with one another. It's a big community, and definitely as competitive as they all are, there's a lot of respect between them. So I imagine there's going to be an attempt to try and get through this first lap and make sure that everybody can get out there and get racing, even though they do have a spare car waiting for them in case they do run into trouble. Obviously, you don't want to have to take an extra pit stop in this series.
Yeah, definitely not. No, you would not want to be doing that. It's a short race, of course. We're looking at 30 minutes tonight, as always, which means that the one pit stop will be a strategic choice here with where they go for that, and one they'll need to make sure they get right as we're coming up towards Tower Corner here, leading up towards the back section of the track, of course, and literally because they're just in the distance behind where the camera's looking now, off to the left of the screen here, is where the field actually is. It's closed now, but the runway is still there. So the airfield is actually still in place.
Yes, absolutely. And this is where it'll return to some of the actual airstrip part of the track. The rest of it was more kind of access roads that they used over the years. And you'll see here, this is called Jean de Bien into this part, and you can see it's I guess a precursor to what we now have on a lot of modern racetracks where they have the paved runoff, but it wasn't meant that way originally. And in fact, in its original formation, much of the track was lineated essentially by cones and hay bales, and I believe there was a story of Mario Andretti once losing the track at one point during the 12 hours and having to find his way back to get back to the race.
Yeah, that definitely makes things a bit more difficult. And of course, let's not forget the last corner of the track here, Sunset Bend. This one has had its share of race-ending moments, so we'll keep our eyes on that one, of course, as we go down to the start of the race here. The pace car will pull off, leaving the field in the command of Tyler Guillemette for your Pro Class, Dan Fendick for the Open, and Greg Meismer for the Beneficiaries. Here we go. Pace car going to pull off. Waiting for that green flag to fly. Green flag flies under the Yokohama Bridge, and we're racing here at Sebring. Big slowdown and spread out towards the rear of your Pro field there as the Open Class and Beneficiaries start to go here. We're going to see an early run, of course, by Meismer, who's technically up in second place in the GT4 field right now, as the pros now filter through the first sector of the racetrack.
Yeah,
Beneficiaries and Open moving through that first corner here, and it's a tighter line, Joe, through this second segment here. We've got to make sure we keep our eyes on this.
Absolutely, and it looks like we had one car off. That was Benaway there that went off into the dirt, but thankfully only lost one spot out of it. Yeah, very clean from both of them. Fantastic to see everybody be real heads up into that first part. Already seeing a battle for second, though. It looks like Smotherman's going to try and overtake Campbell in the Pro Class.
Yeah, definitely has already, which makes things a little bit useful in the early going here. He's going to be in a good position for third. Wow, my brain is not working tonight. I think I'm having a stroke. But it's useful in this early running because the track is narrow. Passing is more difficult at Sebring, perhaps, than other tracks, Joe. Meaning that this early track position is going to pay later on.
We had some more issues for Brian Knight spinning out of hairpin, and I think an off for Jesse Elliott. Not sure if he got helped on that one, but both of them back on track and rolling, so I haven't seen anybody needing to take a tow from too much damage yet. This is a good sign for the field as we look at our GT3s here.
Oh, huge incident towards the front of our Beneficiaries at Open Class here. I'm trying to work out who was involved in this one, but
Winker, it looks like.
Yeah, Winker most likely, but that was a stonker.
Yeah, Haslidi, Winker, and Snyder are the three that I see, and unfortunately looks like Hazlitt is pretty damaged. And there you can see, coming into Tower, it's so hard to, when you've got multiple cars around, to try and figure out who's running what line. I'm guessing that's what happened here as we look at the replay.
Snyder got loose, I think. Yeah, Snyder got loose, couldn't brake in time, slammed into the back of the 07, which caught the 59. Yeah, we'll get the Jesse Elliott replay here for you to look at. See what comes here, but you look for that car in the background, they get loose off the side of the track, almost like the traction snapped on them, and bam, they went sideways. We've got another one here for Jesse Elliott. This one's a little tap into the corner there. Not what we'd like to see, but no major damage, unlike the previous one we had. So things kind of busy in the early running here with slightly cooler tires, unfortunately, I think.
Yeah, it's very easy to do that into the hairpin. It's heavy braking. One of the slowest. In fact, I think it is the slowest corner on the track. So everybody's trying to get checked up on the first lap. You might not be as familiar with your rivals' braking markers, and easy to just accidentally run into them. As we take a look at some of our GT3s here coming through, and back to the GT4s actually, with a Merc leading the way.
Absolutely is, yes. With Brock Hogan up front there for the beneficiaries, and we have the Specialist First Class guest driver here up in that second spot. Trying to remember whose name is Adam Benaway again here, up in that second position for your Open Class lead, with Brian Winker behind him and Meismer down there in second. So Brock Hogan has made a big jump here. This is an advantageous move for him. In fact, he's looking towards the back of the 29 machine right now. Okay, no, that is Benaway who's gotten in front of him here. They're different classes, of course, but they are racing the same car.
Yeah, that makes it difficult. But I'm sure there's definitely pride on the line there of winning in the same spec car there. So, yes, it's two different classes officially, but being able to be in the same GT4 machinery and be able to finish ahead is probably going to be a feather in their cap. And, man, you can see the pressure that Hogan is really putting on. This is what you need to do at the start, because really he doesn't need to make any anxious moves, especially if he feels like he is faster. Just has to wait for the right opening or just get a mistake out of that 29.
Absolutely, and he is driving the appropriate car for this style of racing, the BMW. Fill the guy in front's mirrors and sit right on his bumper and wait for something to happen.
Exactly.
Am I stereotyping Beamers too much here?
And I mean, you're going to see a lot of different lines through here too. So he's going to fill the mirrors only partway through that corner. Sunset Bend, you could take probably about 5 different lines, and every single one of them is going to be quick in some form or fashion if you nail it. And I think that Hogan might have a chance for the lead from Benaway. He's going to get the inside into turn 1, and that looks almost like Benaway gave that up. Nope, maybe not. Here he comes.
Undercut. No, he gave him the line because he was tight there, knowing he'd have to track out wide. So the strategic undercut there by Benaway, really nicely done there in the Mercedes. Gets himself into the lead securely by turn 2-3 here. Nicely positioned. That was calculated. I really like that one, Joe. He got himself into a good position. He knew he was going to go up the inside, look for it. He let him have it, knowing that taking the tight line into one here, with it being a tightening apex, you have a major advantage to undercut.
Yeah, that was very wise on his part. However, that little battle has allowed Winker to get into things. That's Brian Winker, who is also in the same class as Benaway. So, yes, he doesn't need to really fret as much about Hogan, but now that it's become a 3-car fight, someone from his very own class has become a bit of a threat.
No, it really has. Definitely want to keep an eye on here, because he'll be looking for Benaway in the Open Class lead right now. So he'll have to deal with Brock Hogan in the BMW in front of him from the beneficiaries class. Meismer just behind them. He is in visual range, but he's not that close right now. I'll have to see if fighting really ensues here, Joe, and see if these guys will slow themselves down through fighting, because at a track like Sebring this narrow, you will lose significant time if you battle and you get side by side with somebody. In fact, that could bring up Reed and Elliott as well here, and Asensio.
Absolutely. Seems like we had an incident with Dan Fendick, and this was on lap 2. I think it was in Sunset Bend. We've got a replay pulled up, and unfortunately, an innocent victim in this one. Joe Stiffel is going to have a spin at the wrong place in the wrong time. You're going to see a massive hit here.
Yeah, really. Oh my gosh, and the quarterback is toast. He balanced on 2 wheels on the tires there. Yeah, we're going to get on board for this. That was a ride for Disney down the road, not for here.
Yeah.
There, just nowhere to go. Just gets clobbered. Oh my gosh.
It's one of those things where it's hard in the moment, because you could see, yeah, he picked the outside, but by the time he picked that, well, that's where the car was going, and he was on a trajectory. Yeah, he couldn't bail as soon as he decided, okay, I'll go around the outside of the spin.
That was the tightest part of Sunset Bend as well, as you approach the bridge entrance, because there, your line has to already be committed. You really can't change direction too much towards the actual apex of that corner. Unfortunate, but this is racing. These things will happen. Let's take a look back towards the front here of your GT4 cars. It's still Benaway leading the way from Hogan, with Winker right behind them here. Meismer has been caught up by Reed, so we could have something happening there at the moment. But the real battle we're keeping our eyes on will be this conflict with Winker here and Benaway.
And Hogan's made a couple attempts, so it hasn't been completely docile here, but you can see they're separating from Brian just a hair, and I wonder if that's Brock maybe trying to think bigger picture, doesn't want to try and get side by side if he doesn't have to be, because again, that's going to give up time very quickly. It's going to allow Brian a chance to become more of a factor in this battle. He needs to wait for high percentage moves where he can get it done fast.
Yeah, he really does. That'd be the opportune moment to wait for in this kind of race where you really don't want to cost yourself too much. So, of course, the back straight would be a fantastic place to go for it. Turn 1 is a good place to go for it. Through Sunset's a good place. But you do need a good escape route out of a pass, and you need the wider section of this racetrack here. And otherwise, you will get caught very, very quickly. Even one bit of side-by-side, even through this portion of the lap, the guy behind them will be on top of them in no time whatsoever.
Had a self-spin for Taylor Parsons. Don't really need a replay, just kind of caught the grass into turn 3. Is able to keep going, didn't hit anything, but unfortunately sends him all the way down to 10th. So second to last of his classes. Here we go, you called it. Looking for it on the backstretch, but doesn't look like Brock is close enough and decides to back out of it.
Yeah, it's the Ullman Straight there. Perfect place for a run to get something done at this track, as we'll track out here on the start-finish line, and it's still going to be Benaway, followed by Hogan, followed by Winker. The gap has not closed between Winker and Hogan here, so we're still waiting to see what will happen. Who will make a move? They're being conservative, Joe, like you mentioned a moment ago, with where they try these attempts. They're not doing it in the twisty sections.
No, really not. And I think we got a little bit of another battle here in the GT3s in the pro class. This is Rodney Campbell with Jake Steinbrink all over the back of him, and coming onto that Ullman Straight once again. Oh, but Steinbrink looks really unsteady. That's a critical corner out of Le Mans. If you mess it up, you can see he's paying for it with a loss of momentum all the way down this straight.
Yeah, it really is, and that's brought them right together here. So we'll see if this one can have a factor here. Looking at Steinbrink there, on board with him. Can he make a closure here? There's a Mercedes ahead of Rodney Campbell. He's definitely closed that gap in. It's not super tight so far, but want to keep your eyes, of course, at the front here, because Guillemette and Smotherman are not too far apart. There's a lap car between them right now, which could have an impact, but he'll just go straight past that one, no problem at all. That was the 0-2. Gets himself through an 0-2-1, sorry, Charles Bushell. So we'll see if Smotherman can catch up towards Guillemette. He's definitely closed the time down, but right now, looking back towards our leaders for Beneficiary and Open. Little change, but there's lap traffic ahead. This could play a factor in the slower cars, the GT4 machines. We might see another attempt here by Hogan. We definitely want to see that. He's got a good run through the corner. Although the tow from the lap car might, in fact, he's going to use that. Benaway's going to use that tow from the lap car to defend here on the Ullman Straight. So he won't catch up to him by the end of the corner, but it will keep him from being attacked too hard. But this has brought Brian Winker, Joe, right into this.
Yeah, Benaway was just much tighter at the apex down through Le Mans, and great sportsmanship there from our lap car of Holly, just trying to stay out of the way of these three that are fighting for the GT4 lead, even though it's two different GT4 classes out there, two of them and the beneficiaries. And yeah, Brock, man, at times that car looks like it's a little bit better, and he's closing in, and there seems to be little mistakes here and there that are really costing him. He's got to make sure and focus on his own race right now. It's hard to do when you're in a battle like this, but you must hit your marks. You got to be on the line, or else you're just going to give away time, corner after corner.
It certainly is, and we'll do a rundown of your race standings as things stand. But first, we want to talk about our beneficiary spotlight for tonight's race. That is Dustin Burkhalter. Dustin enlisted in the Army as an infantryman in 2009. He deployed to Kunar, Afghanistan in 2010 with the 1st Brigade of the 101st Airborne. And after deployment, he reclassified as an EOD officer, or Explosives Ordnance Disposal Officer. Then deployed twice to Kuwait. He deployed to Afghanistan again in 2019, where he served as an EOD team leader, sorry, not officer, in direct support of Special Forces. He was temporarily medically retired in November 2021. He's been around racing all his life, from watching his grandfather race at the local dirt track to riding in the tow truck with his dad at the local paved oval. So a long history of racing and dedicated service. Special consideration I really give to EOD personnel. They are some of the bravest military personnel that exist out there. Nobody wants to go towards something that's going to go bang. Nobody.
Yeah, no, that's a lot more guts than I have. That was Elliot Whitfield that we saw just ahead in a lapped car that was just going off. We also had, I think, our first scheduled pit stop. Jason McSparron is in and out in the GT3 in the pro class. So unfortunately, that puts him at the back of his class. But with the job done, he's got a whole bunch of clear air in front of him now. Well, and he just went a little wide in turn 3. We didn't see it on screen. So he's not making good use of the clear air quite yet.
No, not yet, but hopefully we'll see if that can evolve through this here, and we get that to develop as the race goes on. But speaking of the race going on, I haven't told you about this organization yet, this race, and I like to every race to make sure you know who we are doing this for. This is Operation Motorsport. They're a veteran-led and operated not-for-profit based in both Brighton, Ontario and Raleigh, North Carolina. They serve Canadian and American service members and veterans, and they were founded on the basis of 3 simple words: excite, engage, and empower. The premise is to engage ill and injured service members and veterans affected by military service through motorsport activities to aid in their recovery and rehabilitation. To find out more information, please visit operationmotorsport.org. That is operationmotorsport.org.
On screen, by the way, that was Steinbrink that just went by Campbell for 3rd up in the pro class. So nicely done there by Jake in the 60 car. And that had to have been pretty hard. You know, I was watching those two when we were following this battle earlier, Rachel. If I was to pick amongst the choices that you have in this field for the GT3 cars, the Mercedes would probably be it. It's really known for being an easier to drive car, very stable over bumps and over curbs. And at a track like this, that's going to be a huge advantage. Meanwhile, suddenly Brock Hogan is just relentless on this 29 car.
Yeah, he really is. Brock Hogan has found a bit of a life here, and he's going after Benaway as we come past Tower here, and he's looking like he's going to try. This is what will bring Brian Winker into this fight. He's desperate to make a move now. He couldn't find it anywhere else. He's now putting himself in position, which is going to bring Winker, right into this battle. Oh, slapping cars there. We see Benaway go wide. And we'll see the door open as well for Winker here. He will take advantage. Oh, contact between the two of them. And round will go Benaway. Oh, that's unfortunate. Couldn't really know what happened there.
Benaway has been a bit of a punching bag, unfortunately, for this lap. So at least he's able to keep going, and doesn't look like the damage is too bad. I don't see a black and orange flag for him. But here's the second hit right there. And we're going to take another look at the other one. Both cases on the left-hand side. And honestly, in both cases, I feel like that Benaway was kind of innocent in these.
It's a kind of 50-50 call for my eyes. It was kind of one of those tracks needs to be shared. And that requires both parties to share it to an extent. But racing's racing. You don't have to give your lineup if you don't want to. So there's sides on that. Yeah, I think Benaway was at least holding his line in these cases, I think you could say. But it has changed things somewhat. Brock Hogan now leads the way by a comfortable margin for the beneficiary class over next place John Winker, as Brian Winker leads the open class. But we also have John Winker on pit road, as well as a few of the drivers now getting their service.
Yeah, Steinbrink is also in, and we saw the U.S. Coast Guard car. Now, speaking of Coast Guard cars, maybe you can shed some light on this one. There was a time where I was in Wyoming, and there was a U.S. Coast Guard vehicle on the highway. Why in the world was it in the middle of Wyoming, was my immediate thought in that situation.
I don't know. I know that the U.S. Coast Guard exists and what they do, but I'm pretty sure Wyoming hasn't got a coast.
No, it's very, very landlocked.
Any big lakes or anything. I'm pretty yeah, okay, that's a confusing one. Maybe they were lost.
Apparently.
I had a friend once that joked that they were in the Iowa Coast Guard, but that same thing applies to Iowa. No. Who knows? Maybe they were going somewhere. Maybe they wanted to see something in the ocean for once. No, respect to the Coast Guard. They do an incredible job saving lives.
Yes.
In whatever nation, the people that go out to you when you're in trouble on the oceans, that is an amazing calling that those people fulfill. So we'll not pick on the navigation skills too much. Ending up in Wyoming, but maybe there's an answer to that one. I don't know what it would be, but there may be one. Who knows? Maybe a U.S. Marine got lost.
Had a bit of a battle.
Yeah.
For 6 that I could see between Benaway and Poppenhaus there. So Benaway, as we mentioned, did come in and take I believe, one of the spare cars. Double checking on that, and I don't have the data like I thought I did. I'll get back to that, but did actually come in for a pit stop, and that has put him with Poppenhaus, who was only in there for 6 seconds, interestingly, as opposed to Benaway's 17 seconds. So that's what's got him now suddenly so close to another battle. We ride on board with the Aston Martin.
Yeah, we do here, getting a view from the cockpit there on that one, but right now, keeping my eyes here on Benaway again, because we're getting close to an attempted pass here from, I think, is that, there's not Asensio there in the pit. That is going to be, who is that with him? John Winker's also on pit road. Who's there with Benaway? That's a 12 car.
That's Poppenhaus.
Poppenhaus, sorry, I am on all of the drugs, I guess. I didn't remember who that was, but oh my gosh, super close here on the start finish line. Get the camera across to those two right now, because it is rubbing paint. A bit of a slap there on the front straight, as you saw it on the camera. I think we just caught that, but everyone's trading paint to this one. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's proximity to... this is about to get tight. Oh god.
That was
Excuse me for the strange sounds, but that was a thing.
That was Poppenhaus and Campbell there. And Campbell's in the GT3s, we should clarify. So that it really didn't have to be racing him. It was just really strange situational stuff. But Adams got 5th after all that.
I wonder if it's one of those things of having a faster class, excuse me, sort of moments. But really not necessarily pitting out. You need to defer to the traffic on track when you're pitting out there. But that was... yeah, sorry. I have a lot of years doing this, and I have seen many moments where cars get together on track, and you can start to read the tempo of what's occurring and the body language of the cars. That was building up to be apocalyptic if they hadn't backed out there. I think the GT3 car interfering calmed those two down, because all of a sudden they weren't squabbling with each other. They were annoyed at the GT3 car now, so I think they put their differences aside for a moment there and prevented what could have been a little bit too wild.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Back up to the GT3's 3rd place battle. Guillemette ahead of Steinbrink, and I know Steinbrink was fighting for that 3rd before. I'm trying to remember if it was with Guillemette. If it was, he's repassed him and gotten ahead, and now Steinbrink has to do that work all over again. And it was these two, because it's the Porsche versus Mercedes situation.
It certainly is. We'll have to see if that one can change here for us, but that seems to have settled down a little bit, at least for now. Guillemette still getting a good run here, but it's going to be able to Smotherman to the line ahead of him here. So a change of lead there for your pro class. Back behind him, Brock Hogan's gap is pretty significant over Elliott in 2nd place. We've got more people pitting out. As Elliott letting a few guys through from the GT3 field there. Meismer coming up behind him as well. Brian Winker there, Poppenhaus running up here as well. Benaway behind him now, so he's dropped back somewhat from this. So we've got to relax this battle for the moment. But yeah, that was... that got really exciting. I think the pit sequence has everyone kind of thrown off a little bit here. Pitting obviously new this season for the race, so not something we're entirely used to.
Yeah, that's one thing it's always a little bit different in this situation, especially in sim racing, because if you don't have someone on the box for you, which there could be a lot of the drivers that don't, you don't necessarily what's happening situationally. You don't know if the driver you're with has already pitted or not, and or except for, you can tell the difference between the classes, obviously, but it can change up the scenario so much that you really got to be careful that you don't throw things away and do something dangerous. As that is Guillemette, who is unfortunately gone around, and he's got a friend. I think it's a GT4. Yeah, that's Richard Lanning. And we're going to take a look at the replay. I'm going to take a stab that this involved... Well, no, it did involve the traffic. I thought it was going to involve Steinbrink.
Let's see what happened here with this one. Oh, yeah, no, that's unfortunate placement there.
Yeah.
Again, this is one of those tracks. It's a lot like Dover. Well, no, Dover's self-cleaning. It's a lot like, for example, for NASCAR terms, Martinsville. If someone goes around, it's good luck avoiding them. The track does not self-clean here. Some racetracks, incidents will occur off the track and go wide. Here, they'll either rebound back in or they'll end up pushing back onto it, as we've got a huge amount of traffic on the Ulman Straight there, running it down towards the end of the lap here. But, oh, got a spin on the front straight as well. That's going to be Steinbrink, I think. The 33 machine. Josh Snyder dumps it as he's being passed by Campbell from the Pro Class. No contact there, just a self spin coming out of Sunset Bend. It's all getting wild in these last 7 minutes.
It's kicking off for sure. And this is the battle, I believe, for third in the GT4s, although it is between a beneficiary and the other class. It's Winker trying to chase on Meismer, the 336 and the 75. About the closest fight that we've got right now is well out on track. As they come through 3, 4, and 5. This is where it gets that big launch down into the hairpin. And, you know, we talked about the drivers going wide earlier before. It used to be that the hairpin went all the way out. You see that escape road? That was the actual racetrack, and there was no runoff. It was just all the way up to that outside wall.
Yeah, not as safe as it could be. This is a much better layout in that regard, that we have that for them here. That is the 336 there. We saw Brian Winker. He's in lead battle here. This is Hogan, followed by Elliott. Now, this is not the lead per se. They're both the leader of their own classes, but as we know, the GT4 cars like to see who can beat the GT4 cars. So, be they beneficiary or be they open class with supporters or active duty personnel. Oh, that Mercedes like to cut the grass a little bit there. Recovers it nicely and safely though. So, congratulations to that wasn't Meisman, that was a lap car, I believe there, but in fact, it might be a GT3 machine looking at it. It is. It's one of the pro cars. He's going to wedge himself down here because that's the way to pass. As we get down now towards the end of this part of the lap. And right now, the 25 of Elliott is going to be ahead of Brock Hogan. But for how long?
Yeah, but a nice job, though. He got past him with that lap traffic coming out of Tower into Bishop. So now it's up to Hogan's pink car to try and get back through here. And that's a battle for position of the GT3s that are going to split them. That's Parsons and Andrews. Yeah, both fighting for, I think, 7th place here. So they had impetus to try to get through there as quickly as they could. I mean, yes, they got to respect that other battle, but they only owe them their piece of track and nothing more.
I agree, but personally, I ain't splitting the needle in Sunset. That just
I wouldn't either. I didn't say it was smart. I just said
no. Zigzagging in Sunset is optimistic at best. We've seen plenty of races. I think you and I, between ourselves, the amount of crashes we've seen in Sunset, unbelievable. With corners here, it is one of the highlight crash locations.
Yeah, and they're rarely small ones. That car that we saw, of course, that was Jason Kasparin, just had a self-spin, so that sends him down to 10th, unfortunately, once he's able to get that one going. And back to the fight for third. So now that Hogan gets separated slightly, Meisner and Winker once again.
They absolutely are. Meisner and Winker getting them this race going for them. Again, beneficiary and open second, each of them. So we'll have to see how this one plays out, but Winker, of course, wanting to get himself further back up here. He was in real contention earlier on. Right now, of course, Jesse Elliott there leading the way for that grouping with Hogan in second place. The gap there has opened up somewhat, but the gap between the two groups there is not huge. I'd say all top 4 are equally separated right now, although Brian Winker is probably closer to Meismer than any of the others are to each other. So right now, it's a little bit quieter in this final moments of the race here.
Yeah, things have separated finally. People can really focus on what they're doing out there. So we'll see if anybody starts to have anything else erupt. I mean, we had plenty of excitement for a 30-minute race, frankly, so I won't be too disappointed if it does stay calm for a little bit here.
I think we could do with a little calm towards the end of this thing, as got Dustin Burkhalter working his way through some traffic a little bit further up there. And now that's us seeing one of the Ferraris thumping his way across the curbs. It's the 84 machine. That is Matt Smotherman, your race leader for the pro category. Happily hopping those curbs.
You got to be careful with some of the curbs around here because there's ones that are super flat and then there's those that are just really tall that you can't do much with. Tower especially comes to mind. That one has always frustrated me in so many different cars. That's Reed, unfortunately. That looks like Lamar to me.
Yeah, that's Le Mans corner there for Reed. Unfortunate for him there, but these things will happen. Maybe it was a curb. It was actually flat there, so it wouldn't be a curb. But this is why I like the Mercedes or the front-engine cars. You could aggressively attack curbing, even the big ones in that car, because the weight balance is there. It loosens you up enough to rotate through the corner, hitting the curbs, whereas in the mid and rear-engine cars, you can really upset the car if you get on those big curbs. So it's different racing styles based on the car's own handling performance and its general center of mass. So there could be a difference there in how they'll behave. Adam Benaway, who was leading the way for quite a bit in the open class, down currently in 3rd place for them.
I'm seeing him scored
on screen. That's Meisman, 2nd in the beneficiaries.
Oh yeah, the open class. Excuse me, you're right. I'm so used to looking at the GT4s overall.
No, that would be. I mean, I always look at them overall. I think the racers on track see themselves as a GT4 class.
Yeah.
They are, of course, separated into the beneficiaries and open in terms of their own points and their own standings, but of course, they definitely race each other as if they are in the same race, and I like to think it is that same way. But right now, that is still going to be Jesse Elliott there with Brock Hogan 2nd place right now. Hogan hopefully having a good run here. He is, of course, representing the Army in this. He had a win last season, I believe, actually. Yes, no, last season was all Matt Smotherman, which is why he is in Pro now. Even though Matt Smotherman is a beneficiary, he is now definitely very much in the Pro class due to being too fast. But last season before that, season 3, we actually did get a win by Hogan. So this will be his first win since then, if he can hold on here.
I don't need to go to the replay, but Martin Wallace and Jake Porter came together from 2 different classes into Sunset Bend, spun each other around. They're able to get back to the pits, but going to be a bit of a disappointing finish for both of them.
Yeah, it certainly will be there as we have the final 20 seconds here on the cards. Matt Smotherman is most of the way through a lap here, so we should hit 0 by the end of this thing. So he should be getting the flag this time by.
Yeah, checkered flag this time by. He's on his white flag lap.
Certainly is. The clock ticks down to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. This will be our checkered flag for Matt Smotherman, your race leader at the moment, as one of the cars ahead gets out of the way for him. It'll be an easy run now. Almond Straight and Sunset for Matt Smotherman to take home a victory here in the Pro class. Jesse Elliott there in your open class, looking to do exactly the same. He's just out of Old Hairpin. Brock Hogan the same for the beneficiaries, so they've got most of a lap to go still for that grouping, but we'll keep our eyes here on Matt Smotherman. Steinbrink is 6.4 behind him on the straight behind as Smotherman enters Sunset. In the Sunset, how appropriate. Under the Yokohama Bridge, and the checkered flag will wave for Matt Smotherman, taking a win here for the Pro field in Operation E-Motorsport round number 5. Looking back here towards Jesse Elliott now. They're heading up towards Tower. The lap is, or just past Tower I should say, nearly in the bag for them here. Just a little bit further to go for Elliott and Hogan. A lot of traffic between the 2 groupings there. I believe some of it's GT3 cars.
Yep, that's cars they don't have to worry about. Yeah, Jesse's got such a margin here. Really, all he needs to do is just stay patient and give it a little bit of leeway, not to risk the car.
Real quick here, let's get the camera on Brock Hogan from his onboard, please, for the moment, because I just want you to see this. Look at this, the Sunset full blast as they run down the Elman Straight here towards Sunset Bend. This is what we've been seeing here from the booth, is the huge glowing orb of Florida sun greeting these guys as the race will come to an end. And it's Jesse Elliott coming across the line to win for the open class, with Brock Hogan just behind him to bring it in for the beneficiaries.
Yeah, nice work on both their parts. I'm sure Brock would have liked to have the overall win, but still a class win is something to be pretty proud of out there. And yeah, that namesake for that corner becomes very obvious once you hop on board the cars and see what it's like from the first-person perspective.
Very much so. Well, that brings our race to a close. Meisman is across the line, Winker's across the line, Benaway is, and we are going to go to a quick commercial. We will be back with your post-race results and your interviews. Stick with us.
On Remembrance Veterans Day weekend, November 2022, Operation Motorsport is returning to Anglesey Circuit, Wales, United Kingdom to compete in the 12-hour Race of Remembrance. This event allows our beneficiaries to compete as a team, shoulder to shoulder, with other veterans and racers. We want to use this opportunity to honor your hero service. And for a $25 donation, we will place your hero's name on the hood of our race car. 100% of the donations received will be used to support our Race of Remembrance operation. Help us honor 500 heroes and donate today.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn them. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them.
Welcome back. We have our post-race results here at Sebring. I nearly said Sonoma, then Suzuka, but we are at Sebring. Mass Motherman takes the win for your pro class with Jake Steinbrink in second, Rodney Campbell in third. Behind them, Ted Nelson, Tyler Guillemette, Taylor Parsons, Dustin Burkhalter, Jason McSparron, Mario Gonzalez, and Scott Andrews there in 10th.
Then, of course,
And then Martin Wallace, last of the pros, with Jesse Elliott bringing home the win for the open class. And the win for the beneficiaries, Brock Hogan, second place with them is Greg Meismer, with second and third for the open class, Brian Winker and Adam Benaway. Then it's Val Asensio with Tyler Fendick, with Joe Stiffel coming home in 30th place for the pro class. And that should be our entire field. Well, with that in mind, we're going to have a chance to chat to our third place beneficiary tonight. I believe, looking at our timing and scoring, that is going to be Mr. Poppenhouse. So we don't have him here right now. So we are, in fact, Joe, I think you're going to be talking to Greg Meismer.
yes, indeed. Third place overall in the GT4, second in the beneficiaries. And Greg, there was a lot of action happening in front of you, it seems, and it felt like a lot of drivers managed to get positions just by trying to stay a little bit cool out here. Is that kind of your approach? Just let the race come to you?
Kind of. I got into a little incident there in the hairpin on lap one, which kind of messed up my results today a little bit, but that's okay, yeah, everybody was really calm, cool, and collected today. No major incidents to report on this end.
Well, it didn't look all that calm, cool, and collected from up in the sky, I can tell you that. But regardless, it was entertaining at the least. So you get yourself a third overall, and we were having a debate. Do you race these GT4s more as a GT4 class as a whole, or do you really pay attention to the beneficiary versus the open guys?
Kind of both. Both. At the end, whoever's next to me, I'm racing. But as far as overall, I'm really kind of shooting for the beneficiary stuff. I don't want to ruin anybody else's race, with point implications and things.
That makes sense to me. Well, either way, a second place in class, a third within the GT4s has got to feel pretty good, and especially at a track like this, it does have such armed forces history behind it.
Oh yeah, it being a military runway in World War II for training bombers, it's got a lot of heritage.
So I'm sure that meant a lot. Anybody that you want to thank that helped get you on the podium today?
Everybody over with my race team at ZFG Racing, and everybody over at PTSD Foundation USA and Camp Hope. You can hit them up at ptsdusa.org or 877-717-PTSD, and they will help. It's a combat veteran peer-to-peer kind of PTSD rehabilitation program in Houston. So.
Well, that's fantastic. That is a great little cause there that obviously is very important in this group. But I do believe we have another of our drivers ready to go, Rachel. Let's see who we've got up next.
Absolutely. I believe we do not have him yet, but we do have your winner from the beneficiaries tonight. That is going to be Mr. Brock Hogan. Brock, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Congratulations on the win for the beneficiary class. Second overall of the GT4 field. This track seemed to be probably the narrowest you guys have raced this season.
Yeah, it's a fun track to race, though. It makes it very hard to pass. I definitely got to look at how I got past the guest we had. I'm really hoping I didn't take him out in any way.
It was one of those racing moments from as far as we could tell, but overall, was passing, it seemed to be yourself and, of course, Jesse and Greg and Brian at various times, and, of course, Mr. Adam Benaway. How does one approach a pass here? Is it worrying about the guys behind you catching up? Is it about getting yourself in the right position to make advantage on the Owen Straight or the front straight or in Sunset?
Personally, on Sebring, I just try and keep them behind you as much as you can, because it's kind of hard to regain the position if they force you outside. So just trying to use your position to your advantage. Unfortunately, I couldn't do that with Jesse. He's just much too fast.
Yeah, it would seem that way. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or thank for the win today?
Just all Operation Motorsport again, and our sponsors, and as always, to my daughter, Sinead. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Brock Hogan tonight, putting points on the board for the Army and getting a win here today in round number 5. Your first in since season 3, I believe.
Correct.
Awesome. Well, congratulations for that. Brock Hogan coming on today with the win for the beneficiary class. Well, last but not least, because he is technically a beneficiary, we have a chance to chat to Matt Smotherman. Matt, second today on the grid to the victory tonight. Sebring seems to be a track that suits you well.
It felt nice out there. I wasn't so sure about it for the first, 2/3 of the race until I finally passed Tyler in the pits. I was praying for some sort of a miracle, and it happened there.
So strategic victory in this case. Sebring a difficult one to pass?
I would say, well, I don't know. It's actually a really good track, I think, for the multi-class racing. Just there's something about the layout, the way it sets things up, and you can make really predictable moves with multi-class stuff. Now, as far as like wheel to wheel against somebody else, it depends on the somebody else.
That's quite a telling story there, given the width of the track and the room to play. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this is a bumpier circuit that I think we have a lot of in the series so far. We've had some very, let's call them intentional racetracks rather than improvised ones. One's ahead of the lives. Obviously, we go to Montreal next week, which is another track that is not always a racetrack. This, obviously, Sebring is often known as having a street course feel. Next week, we go to a street course. How do you feel about Quebec?
I actually really like that track, though I have, just the sneaking suspicion that Tyler's going to come out the gates just with mega pace like he always seems to. I mean, like if he does what he did today, I'm going to be in a world of hurt, I think. I think I just lucked out on this race. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a really fun track. It's a great track to race at.
Well, this is definitely a track we look forward to seeing you guys race at, and hopefully you'll have another good result. Anybody like to give a shout out to or thank?
Shout out to my brother, Mason, who I don't think was racing with us. He's off. He got activated with the Texas National Guard down doing a border mission. He's going to be gone for like next 6 months to a year or something like that. But if he's watching, shout out to him.
That is, I believe, Mason Smotherman, yes?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, he also runs in this series, of course, for those who aren't aware. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Matt. Congratulations on the win in the pro class.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matt. And we do actually finally have Adam Poppenhouse. He's going to be here joining us right now. Last interview, talking to Joe Peak.
Indeed, and it was an active race, to say the least, out there for Adam, especially that first lap. Was that a slowdown penalty, or what happened that sent you into pit lane?
No, P1 and 2 had their little moment, and I caught, it must have been some net code, but I caught some damage, had some wheel damage from that incident, so I had to make a pit stop, and then I was a little heated, so I got frustrated and forgot to put more fuel in, so we did a double pit stop strategy today. It was a little wild.
It's always frustrating when you find your own distractions making you lose out on things that you would have caught in a more calm situation. But you still got third in the beneficiary class in the end. It seemed like these GT4s had a lot to watch out for, because the GT3s often seem to interrupt the battles. Were you noticing that in the car, that you'd catch somebody and then suddenly you'd have your eyes on the mirrors instead of watching what you're doing ahead?
I try really hard to not do that, but Sebring, the closing speed differential with the GT3 cars and the GT4 cars is pretty impressive, and so you definitely have to keep that in mind and make sure that you're holding your race line and being predictable, because they come up just frighteningly fast at some of the ends of those straights.
One thing your early stop did do for you as well is while it did put you behind, you had a lot of laps there to really focus on your own race, and you didn't have a lot of cars around. Did that help you pick up a little speed and find maybe a few more advantages while everybody was battling each other there at the first part of the race?
Yeah, actually, when I came out of the first pit stop, I had some clean air, and so I was doing everything I could to do my best qualifying session and make sure that I could snag some bonus points for the fastest lap. I think that we accomplished that mission, but that was definitely the goal. I knew I could make up time on some of the other competitors, but maybe not get back to the front. So I was just trying to maximize points and get it home.
Well, heading off to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal is going to be just probably a little bit more punishing than what we experience here at Sebring. Are you going to leave an extra margin there just to make sure you get it home to the checkered flag?
Again, it's for me, it's going to be all about how I qualify. If I qualify pretty close to the front, then I might be a little bit more aggressive, and if I don't qualify as well as I'd like, then I might be a little more conservative and try to make it up on the track. So we'll try to catch it as it comes and maximize our results.
Well, 8th in the GT4s, but 3rd in the beneficiaries. Who helped put you on the podium today?
I want to say thank you to Resilience Racing, Race 2, Race 22, and always Operation Motorsports and Podium.
Great stuff there from Adam Poppenhaus. Rachel, I believe that hands things off to you.
It certainly does. Well, folks, thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget, we have Montreal coming up next week on Tuesday, September 27th. Thank you to the series partners of the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League, iRacing, and the US of North Carolina. For Jason Leach, Diesel Loader, Chris Ramirez, and the entire Operation Motorsport team, for Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, John Theodore at Podium Esports, camera builder Dougie Beard, our producer Joshua Lee, and my colleague this evening, Joe Peak. I am your host, Rachel Wyford. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League. We wish you a good night.